This Week in Town. I'm your host, John Wilkie. First up this week, the Grenfell Tower final report dropped. It's been a long time coming. The Grenfell fire itself happened in 2017. It was on the 14th of June. A fire broke out in the Grenfell Tower apartment building. The cause of the fire was eventually narrowed down to a faulty refrigerator on the 4th floor. However, it should not have been as bad as it ultimately was, and the reason for that is that there were safety violations. The cladding that was used on the building was highly combustible. It had polyethylene used as a bonding agent. And there's a list of other problems with this system, but if I go into them, we might be at it all day, and we have other things to cover. This tragedy resulted in the loss of 72 lives. 72 human beings that could still be with us today. And there was even more injuries. 20 of those were very serious. This was a big enough event that it even made news internationally. It required hundreds of firefighters from over London, and it even led to investigations inside and outside the UK on other buildings using the similar cladding system. Efforts to replace it are very costly and ongoing. In this report, which numbers 1,700 pages, it emerged that a manufacturer of the cladding chose to hide fire risks in order to sell their product, and that a piece of information I wished surprised me is that the government was warned 25 years ago about the problems. As early as 1992, a fire had taken place in Merseyside as a result of this issue. Tests in 2001 proved that it was a problem. The results were suppressed. There was another fire in 2009, and the London Fire Brigade is said to be unprepared, in spite of the fact that they had warnings since 2009. The simple truth is, the deaths that occurred were all avoidable, and those who lived in the tower were badly failed over a number of years, and in a number of different ways by those who were responsible for ensuring the safety of the building and its occupants. They include the government, the tenant management organisation, the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, those who manufactured the materials used in the refurbishment, those who certified their suitability for use on high-rise buildings, the architect, the principal contractor, and some of its subcontractors. In particular, Harley Curtain Wall and its successor, Harley Facades. Some of the consultants, in particular the fire engineer, ex-over Warrington Fire, the local authorities, Building Control Department, and the London Fire Brigade. Not all of them bear the same degree of responsibility for the eventual disaster, but as our reports show, all contributed to it one way or another. There's a little bit more to that, but we'll end it there. Next up is something a little bit less serious, but still serious to those involved. This is about the Oasis tickets. Tickets for the new Oasis tour went on sale this week. Many people were excited, many people were snapping them up. I remember seeing, who was it Edel or Kiwi? It was one of the sisters from Bewitched, an Irish all-girl at the time, all-woman group, who I believe the sisters were actually related to someone from Boyzone, but that's not relevant. That's just a little bit of trivia. And she showed herself on Instagram trying to buy tickets and then getting through the queue, only to be told that no, she couldn't buy them. I do hope she got her tickets eventually, because she seemed quite eager for it. However, other people discovered something very interesting. That is, that Ticketmaster had decided to engage in what they call dynamic pricing, which is price gouging, is what it is. There's no gentle way to put it, but it's price gouging. The practice they've engaged in here is that the tickets were about £350, that's about $500. I think that's how the exchange rate works out for our American friends. And that's a couple £100 more than the tickets were meant to be worth. Obviously, tickets will vary depending on where you are in the venue, but they should not be that price. A statement from the band reads, "While prior meetings between promoters, Ticketmaster and the band's management resulted in a positive ticket sales strategy, which would be a fair experience for fans, including dynamic ticketing to help keep general ticket prices down as well as reduce touting. The execution of the plan failed to meet expectations. All parties involved did their utmost to deliver the best possible fan experience, but due to the unprecedented demand, this became impossible to achieve. Worth noting that the artist does in fact have the option of refusing dynamic pricing. If that was the case here, they might want to look into who is making decisions on behalf of the band if they weren't responsible for it themselves, because someone doesn't have your best interests at heart. They have actually, worth adding, they've added 2 more dates to the tour, and they'll be offered via ballot to help the people who got kind of screwed with the Ticketmaster thing. Apparently, the European Commission is launching an investigation that won't go anywhere as a result of fan upset. Maybe I'm just being cynical, but I think if they were going to do something about it, they'd have made more efforts to do it by now. This might be the thing that finally pushes it over the edge, and they take steps to stop price gouging, but let's talk a little bit more about that. It's not just something you'll find when you're trying to buy concert tickets. Concert tickets, well, they're a bit of a luxury. They're nice to have, but they're not essential to getting by. It's more of a problem when it comes to grocery stores doing it. Some stores have actually begun introducing digital price tags, which allows them to change the prices up to like 6 times a minute was what I saw for one of the systems. That'd be a bit much, but they can do it that much if they need to, or want to. Walmart and Lidl, or Lidl if you prefer, are being among them, but they're totes not going to use it to engage in price gouging. Super double secret pinky swear. Just a heads up for some people who may not want to hear this sort of thing, so you can skip to the next story. This involves the school shooting that took place recently. In the United States, in Apalachee High School, Georgia, there has been yet another school shooting, where this time a 14-year-old student shot and killed 2 of his classmates, as well as 2 teachers. He had actually made online threats and gotten a visit. He and his father had gotten a visit from the police talking about this previously, the previous year, so it was known that this sort of thing was on his mind, and yet nothing was done to stop it. I'm not someone who automatically blames the parents when kids act up. There are definitely times we should do it. There are definitely types of behaviour you should blame the parents for. Sometimes a parent can do everything right, do the best they can, love their child with everything they have, and they will then go and do bad things. I don't think that's the case here. There have been other situations as well where there were warning signs, there were red flags that their child was up to something. They were troubled, as we like to put it, and that they were going to do something very, very bad, and they didn't take enough steps to stop it. And I think that's what happened here. And in cases like that, I think it would be appropriate to punish the parents equally as much as you would punish the child, which should be harshly. I've seen comments that made me a little bit angry online, saying that, oh, they're only 14 years old, you shouldn't treat them like an adult, their brain's not fully developed. I'm not going to speak for anyone else. Actually, you know what? I'm going to speak for pretty much everyone else. At 14 years old, I don't care how underdeveloped your brain might be, you have the mental capacity to understand it is wrong to kill people. I'm not going to say their name. They don't deserve my respect enough to have me say their name. Instead, I'm just going to name the people that passed. Mason Schermerhorn, 14 years old. They were a student. Christian Angulo, 14 years old. They were also a student. Richard Aspinwall, who was a math teacher. And Christina Ermy, who was also a math teacher. And that's all I have to say about that. Until the next one. Next up, in kind of a bad news, good news situation, for those of us who are fans of Queen, Brian May, one of the surviving members of Queen, has been rushed to hospital. He's out now, but with a minor stroke. In his words,
good news is that I can play guitar after the events of the last few days, and I say this because it was in some doubt, because that little health hiccup that I mentioned happened about a week ago, and what they called it was a minor stroke. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I didn't have any control of this arm. So it's a little scary, I have to say. I had the most fantastic care and attention from Frimley Hospital where I went. Blue lights flashing a lot, very exciting. I might post you a video if you like.
And next we have a very special and important story. It's been unfolding for, well, a number of years, actually. And that is that our wonderful Prince William is growing a beard. Yes, I know. I was as shocked as you are when I awoke the other day and I read the glorious news, because, as you know, the Queen, rest in peace, Mom, the Queen had forbidden him from growing a beard, which, as someone who is quite lazy when it comes to shaving himself, that really, it upset me greatly. I mean, I'd heard only good things about the Queen, and when I heard that about her, I was, well, that great lady was not quite so great in my estimation. There was an incident told in Prince Harry, his younger brother, his book, The Spare, I believe it was called. The Spare Heir, I don't know, Spare on a G-string, something like that. And he remarked that his brother William had made him shave his beard off at one point, which was unfortunate because he looked quite good with it. Because, in his words, he said, "Hey, why did you make me shave my beard off, William?" And he responded to his brother, "Because Gran wouldn't let me keep mine, Harry." I believe the conversation went something like, "Gran, please, I've worked ever so hard to grow my beard. It looks almost real. It's not even fluffy anymore." And she said, No, you know I don't like beards. Look around at all your uncles and your aunts. Have any of them got beards? No jokes, please." "No, they haven't. That's because beards are forbidden in this family for as long as I'm the matriarchy." Anyway, she's dead now, so he's growing a beard, apparently. And I felt you should all know about it. And now we have some folks we have to say goodbye to. We have two people this week I've selected. It's a bit of a Star Trek-y week, actually. There's Star Trek connections with both of them. First up is Obi Ndefo. Obi was best known for his work on Dawson's Creek, where I believe he appeared for 4 years. It's not a show I was ever personally a fan of, but he played quite a well-known character on that show. And then he also, many other things, of course, throughout his career, but these are the things I'm familiar with him from, in that he was on Stargate SG-1, and he was also on 2 Star Trek shows. He appeared on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and then also in Star Trek Voyager. I think he was a Klingon in Deep Space Nine, as I recall. I think he was. Quite a good Klingon, too. Oh, wow, is there a good Klingon? He looked good as a Klingon, is what I'm saying. There was the past few years of his life, well, a few years ago, in 2019, he'd been teaching a yoga class, which was something he did, and afterwards he went out to buy some groceries. Perfectly normal day so far, so he buys his groceries, he's at his car, he's putting his groceries away. Then suddenly an SUV comes barreling up to him and collides with him. The result being that he lost one leg in the accident, then later the other had to be amputated. I'm not sure what happened to the driver of that, but this isn't about the driver. This isn't the driver's moment to shine. Obi passed away on August 28th this year as a result of complications from an eating disorder. He was 51 years old. And next is our other Star Trek connection. We say goodbye to James Darren. James Darren was a singer and actor. He was perhaps best known for, well, 2 roles. I think it'd be fair to say 2 roles, depending on what circles you find your entertainment in. The first one is he was in the movie Gidget. He played the character of Moondoggy in that, the surfer character. And that was probably the thing that shot him into stardom. There were a couple of Gidget sequels he was also in, and that kind of put him on the map as an actor. And it also helped launch a musical career for him, which he did quite well at as well. He had a very nice singing voice, and we'll get to that in a moment. He appeared in many things over the years, even actually with William Shatner on T.J. Hooker, although it seems like if you were an actor working in the 80s, you were going to be on T.J. Hooker at some point. I just see so many names I recognize appear on that show. And then that brings us up to Star Trek. He appeared in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He appeared in season 6 and 7. Now, he was only in 8 episodes overall, but those 8 episodes were enough to make him a very lasting and impactful character. I think there's some people that were very fond of him. He played a character called Vic Fontaine, who was a hologram, and he was in the persona of a 1960s lounge singer in Las Vegas, very much in the Frank Sinatra type mold. And he essentially functioned, as well as entertaining, he functioned as the counselor for the crew. Even once they got a proper counselor in season 7, he still took on that role for people that needed him. I liked the character quite a bit, and he seemed like a very nice man. After Deep Space Nine, he semi-retired, taking only a couple of more gigs in the years after. He passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles of congestive heart failure. He was 88 years old. And that brings us to the end of This Week in Hell. Thank you very much for those of you who are still watching by this point. Hopefully we can continue to grow this, because I am, in spite of some of the stories we have covered today, and likely will in the future, I am enjoying putting this together. It is nice not having to rely on Reddit for something, isn't it? And if it does take off, it buys me a little freedom to focus on other non-narration related projects. But I'll still be telling you stories one way or another. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves.